Good evening. I would like to call to order the Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners for the regular meeting, March 17th, 2014. Those of you in the audience, if you have a mobile device, if you will please put it on silent or vibrate at this time, we would appreciate it so that it doesn't go off during the meeting. At this time, we are happy to welcome the Concord High School Fire Academy Honor Guard to present our colors. Please rise.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. President, post arms.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to call on Reverend Kevin Seeger, the Associate Pastor at Pitts Baptist Church, to start our meeting with an invocation. Thank you.
Let us pray. God, we do thank you for this day. God, for the rain you have given us. God, we thank you for a body of commissioners who still sees it important to seek your face at the beginning of this meeting. God, we ask for your wisdom. God, we ask for each person in this room that you would bring your wisdom to them as matters come to this group, to this body, that you would give wisdom to our leadership. God, we do pray for Cabarrus County, for the state of North Carolina, for this country, the great country of the United States of America. God, that we would seek your face. God, we would look to you for wisdom. God, we do thank you for the blessings that you send our way. Most of all, the blessing of Jesus Christ, who came to this earth to live and to live as an example, but also to die on a cross for each one in this room, that if we submit ourselves, if we believe in what he did and rose again on the third day, that we can have life eternal through his sacrifice on the cross. God, thank you for that. Thank you for allowing us to come before you tonight to even pray and talk to you, God. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. At this time, we would like to, I'd like to thank Reverend Seeger. Appreciate you being here. And we'd like to recognize the Fire Academy Honor Guard. So if you will please come up to the microphone one by one. I don't know which order you want to come in. Tell us your name and your rank and what year you are in school.
My name is Caitlin Wood. I'm a lieutenant in the Fire Academy, and I'm a senior here at Concord High School.
Thank you. If you will please, Caitlin, if you will exit to your left, my right, Commissioner Burridge has a pen for you.
My name is Jose Gonzalez. I'm a captain with Concord High School, and I'm in 10th grade.
My name is Joshua Dorn. I'm just in the Fire Academy, and I'm in the 9th grade.
My name is Jonathan Baldwin. I am a junior at Concord High School, and I am a company captain.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Chief Barlow, and I'm the chief of the Fire Academy. We started this back in 2009, and we're currently up to 192 members and have approximately $750,000 worth of resources. We have our own engine company, our own rescue, and our own ambulance. We've added the EMT program as well. And there are now 28 programs similar to ours statewide. So thank you so much for letting us present tonight. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioners, the first thing on the agenda is approval or corrections of the minutes. So at this time, I would accept a motion to approve the minutes as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Next, we have the agenda. There are a couple changes that you'll note on page 77. So this time, I accept a motion to approve the meeting agenda, including the changes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Okay, under recognitions and presentations, this is a proclamation that we have been doing for a number of years now. I dare say that many of us know someone who has been touched as a result of someone giving of themselves in this manner. I'd like to read the proclamation. It's for National Donate Life Month. Whereas LifeShare of the Carolinas is focused on saving lives by increasing participation in the North Carolina Organ, Eye, and Tissue Donor Registry, and whereas April is observed as National Donate Life Month with unwavering support from the nation's donation and transplantation community, and whereas LifeShare of the Carolinas, the organ procurement organization that serves Cabarrus County, is a part of that community and has its own programs to highlight the importance of donating to save the lives of others. And whereas over 3,370 North Carolina residents and 121,021 people nationwide are in need of life-saving transplants, and whereas residents of Cabarrus County have been touched by donation as recipients of life-saving transplants and as members of donor families who have literally given others a second chance at life, and now be it resolved, we, the members of the Cabarrus Board of County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2014 to be National Donate Life Month in Cabarrus County, and we urge our residents to give serious thought to the importance of eye, organ, and tissue donation, and if so desired, to join the North Carolina Donor Registry, and further, to notify their family members that they have done so. This time, I would accept a motion to adopt the proclamation for National Donate Life Month.
So moved.
Have a motion, second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. That's a special request that was made of me a couple years ago, and I appreciate that our board has continued to adopt this proclamation. Dennis Testerman is here. There's Dennis. Next up, we have Soil and Water Conservation District recognition of student winners in the North Carolina Association of Soil and Water Conservation Districts Annual Conservation Education Contest. Dennis, we're happy to welcome you tonight.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here. This is, as many of you know, and probably some that are watching on Channel 22 as well, is our 50th anniversary as a single county conservation district. And actually this month marks 75 years of organized conservation in Cabarrus County. Over much of those 50 years, we've had some sort of an educational contest going on. I think from my reading of the minutes, some of those we initiated at the local level. Over time, the State Association of Conservation Districts has gotten behind a number of those contests and come up with others on their own. So we have a number of students here tonight who have participated in these annual contests and first, second, third place winners. And I am going to invite them to come forward in just a second. The theme for the 2013-2014 contest was the living soul. And we've got students here tonight that participated in our essay, poster, PowerPoint, and public speaking contest. The first place winners advanced to a regional competition that just happened to have been held on Saturday, and we had 3 first place winners there who are advancing on to the state level contest that is going to be held in May in Raleigh. So, starting with our annual poster contest, which has been going on for 23 years now, and I will ask in advance forgiveness for names that I don't quite nail on the head correctly. That contest begins in the 3rd grade, and in first place, and if these contestants will just come up as I call your names out and line up here behind me, I would appreciate that. First place in the 3rd grade was Lily Campbell, a student at Jackson Park Elementary. Second place in 3rd grade is Jemiza Hill, also from Jackson Park Elementary. And 3rd place, Champ Lowry from Yes, Concord First, or CFA. I'm trying to get up with the new name change, CFA Academy. In the 4th grade, Sarah Smothers from Jackson Park Elementary, Mariah Malund, also from Jackson Park Elementary, and 3rd place, Nelsie Romero Larios, also from Jackson Park Elementary. 5th grade, Chloe Winchester from 5th grade from Cannon School. She was a first place winner at the regional contest, and her poster will be advancing on to the state. 2nd place was Izzy Gosling from Cannon School, and 3rd place was Molly Morrison, also from Cannon School. And then finally in the 6th grade poster contest, Seja Rai from Harris Road Middle. 2nd place, Valentina Morales from Harris Road Middle, and 3rd place, Sajanja Butagunto from Jackson J.N. Freeze Magnet School. And we do have a few of those that made it here tonight. In the 6th grade, there is also an essay contest, also been going on for 23 years. First place winner was Jackson Loads from Winkler Middle. 2nd place was Kylie Morin from J.N. Freeze Magnet Middle. And 3rd place, LaShawnwa Webb from Concord Middle. We started the State Association several years ago started a computer design slideshow contest. This is the 3rd year for that. The 1st place went to Shania Maston from Harris Road Middle. Her presentation won 1st place and is advancing to the state contest. 2nd place is Gianna Moss from Harris Road Middle, and 3rd place, Sam Park, also from Harris Road Middle. And then finally, in our annual public speaking contest, and this is one of the ones I think we initiated originally, the state's taken that over. It is a contest for 7th and 8th graders, separate contest at each grade level. So the 46th year again for that contest. 1st place in the 7th grade contest is Malia Eaton from J.N. Freeze Magnet Middle School. She won that contest on Saturday and is advancing to the state event. 2nd place went to Delaney Smith from C.C. Griffin Middle, and 3rd place Jack Fan from Hickory Ridge Middle. And then 8th grade, Cheyenne Connor from C.C. Griffin Middle School. 2nd place was Laura Kelly from Concord Middle, and 3rd place was Sumani Nuna from J.N. Freeze Magnet Middle School. So along with these students, there's some folks that helped them along the way. There are obviously administrators and teachers, and I'm sure some of those are here tonight. I would ask if you would stand if you are from a school and work with some of these. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. And then I think probably all these are not able to drive yet, so there's some families that got them here tonight and did other things along the way to help them out. If the families would stand, guardians, parents, siblings, grandparents. And I see Dr. Shepard sitting over here. We certainly thank the school systems for their support along the way. I think just about everybody, we may not have gotten to the 2 newest commissioners yet, but those of you that have been around for a while have been called in to judge one thing or another. We certainly call on our liaison, Commissioner Burge, quite often for that. And already standing at the back of the room is Louis Souther, one of our 5 board members who the board is very supportive of these contests. This is one of the most important things we do every year in their eyes. I thank you so much for...
Dr. Kane is here also with Kannapolis City Schools.
Thank you.
Make sure that she gets recognized.
Yes, thank you. You could tell from the students as I listed schools, we had a lot of participation from both of our public systems and our private schools as well, and we thank everyone here that made that possible. And for most of these students, there's yet another opportunity for another contest in a future year, so we look forward to continuing to work with all of y'all. Thank you, Ken, so much.
Dennis.
Yes, sir.
I had the privilege of being one of the judges on their posters, and I was amazed at some of the posters that they put together. and I'm just glad that I didn't have to make the final decision.
Not an easy job. Thank you again.
Thank you all very much. We appreciate all the students, the teachers, and we appreciate the parents and families for their support in this. The next item that we have, Bob Bushy is here, and Stephen Cood is here. And Stephen, if you have some family members that... Okay.
I want to thank the board for allowing us to come tonight to celebrate and recognize Steve Coot on his retirement from Cabarrus County. Steve has been serving others his entire life. Steve went to Pfeiffer University on a baseball scholarship, and his education was interrupted by the draft. After finishing his time with the Army, he went back and finished his education and began a career with the United States Post Office. He retired from the post office, came to work for Cabarrus County, serving others yet again. In that time, Steve was very instrumental in our JART program, securing the Cabarrus links, which started the CVO transportation. During that time, he raised that program from 22 riders a month to now over 2,000 a month. We're very excited for Steve and his retirement, and what I understand is going to be a lot of golf. But at the same time, we're sad too, because we're going to miss you, and we will not be able to replace you. We have a clock here we want to present to you, and I'm just going to read the inscription. It says, Stephen Cood, in recognition of 10 years of service to Cabarrus County and its citizens. In 2004 to 2014, Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners.
I will be brief and be good. I want to thank Bob for what he said. I almost wondered who he was talking about there for a minute, but I've been in Concord for 38 years now. I remember when Liz used to run around in the balcony of the church that we go to, and she's so much younger than
Actually,
me.
I want to say thank you for that, because that does indicate that I'm much younger than most people think, so thank you for that.
I've worked with some good people. I've had the chance to work with some real good people where we work with transportation. Bob mentioned the Cabarrus Links. That was a service we started to serve some folks to get to work, and it morphed into the Cabarrus Vocational Opportunities. We have 3 of those 7 drivers that report every day about 5:30 in the morning, and we're going on 5 years now, and I've had to answer the phone one time at 5:30 in the morning that one of them couldn't be there. So we've had some good luck, some good people, and I want to thank you for putting up with me for 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next on our agenda are informal public comments. I have 3 of the yellow cards. There are some, if you still have a yellow card and you've not brought it forward, please bring it up and hand it to our clerk so that we can give you your opportunity. First, I'd like to call on Price Crutchfield.
Got a serious matter I want to bring to the board here today. I think it's a matter that concerns everybody. It's some current atrocities over there in Charlotte. As you all know, I've talked about the police in the past and how we've got to watch them. Here we go again. Over here in Charlotte, there's been a police officer with the program over there that gets people on the police force, and it seems that this guy was arrested and charged with taking pictures of underage girls naked. Now, I don't want this to turn out like it turned out here in Concord when that Concord police officer got arrested and was able to make a plea bargain and not register as a sex offender. I had a meeting with the chief of police on that matter. I had other members there too, and he described in detail what the guy did, and yet he was able to make a plea bargain. I don't want this same thing to happen over in Charlotte. We've got this Explorer program in Concord. They got the Explorer program over there with the police. And I've been told by several sources that the policing agencies interact with each other to try to prevent crime. Maybe they interact so they can promote crime. I don't know. Every time I try to talk about it, it seems like I get arrested or told I'm out of order, this, that, and the other. Right over here in Kannapolis, I had a meeting with the chief of police over there, And that guy over there they got for that child pornography mess, the chief of police told me he was facing 50 years in prison. No, 3 years. So that's a long way from 50 years. So we got to keep our eyes on the police. You obviously got a bunch of perverts in a structured atmosphere that the taxpayers have to pay for. Now, if I can get a cut in my taxes, you'll never hear another peep out of me. Incidentally, I tried to communicate with the assistant city manager at the city council meeting the other day, and his words were, "I have nothing to say to you." This guy makes 6 figures, Merle Hamilton, 6 figures, former chief of police, and I got to help pay his salary. But his comments are, "I have nothing to say to you." And by the way, Mr. Ostrich, don't put your hands on me no more. I was standing over on the corner, and you know, I don't invade your personal space, and my religion teaches me, not to let anybody invade mine. Okay, that's where I'm at on that. It's just a matter of common courtesy, and an educated fellow like yourself ought to know that. But anyway, I'm just old trailer trash, but I don't go up to people and just put my hand on them and say, "How you doing?" I like to respect people's personal space. That's just the way I am. Keep sober and try to respect others like I want to be respected. By the way, the Concord police were drinking alcoholic beverages on J.N. Free's school. We mentioned that school tonight, with impunity, I might add. Now, if they can drink liquor over there, I don't see why in the world I can't bring a 6-pack over here. We ought to have cold beer at the county meetings. If the police can consume alcoholic beverages on school property in Concord and not get arrested, why can't we have cold beer here? Okay.
And the next card I have is Jean Griswold.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I must say to all of you how much we really do appreciate all your hard work. I know sometimes there's some division, but when it comes down to it, we appreciate you and we know how hard it is. My name is Jean Griswold. I live in the county just south of Mount Pleasant. The 3 voters in our household are in unanimous agreement that something needs to be done to curtail the spiraling debt in this county. We are opposed to any action that you might take that would subsequently lead to a tax increase in the 2017 budget year. It is my understanding that Commissioner Osterreich's plan would save the county a minimum of $21.5 million in interest alone. The proposed short-term debt would be retired within 5 years, and our total debt would be reduced from approximately $469 million to $196 million in the same time frame. The voters in my family encourage you to carefully consider all options open to you during the budget process, and then to approve Commissioner Osterreich's plan for very short-term borrowing to fund the immediate school needs as defined, and cash for schools moving forward, thus saving the county tens of millions of dollars, dramatically reducing our debt load, and avoiding the tax increase that would be required if you implement any of the other plans that have been presented thus far during the work sessions. Thank you so much.
The next card I have is David Harrison.
Madam Chair, I'll just return the time to you and briefly.
Okay.
Appreciate the
Do you have any other yellow cards? Okay. Okay, that ends our informal public comments. Commissioners, next we have the consent agenda. At this time, I accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion, and Chris, you seconded? Okay. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next up is discussion of the November bond referendum for Cabarrus County Schools, Kannapolis City Schools, and Rowan Cabarrus Community College. You have a number of documents in your package, which you're all quite familiar with, the requests from the 3 systems. Just as a reminder, and I know this has been said over and over again, there's a phone call meeting next week with the local government authority. So tonight we need to give direction to staff. As far as that meeting goes, that does not mean that things can't change. This is not the vote to put everything on a bond or set it in stone or anything of that nature. It's just to give staff some direction. So I would open it to comments. You did get some extra information today. I hope you have them at your seats. I hope that everybody's had an opportunity to look over those prior to the meeting. So.
Madam Chair, we've talked about this a good bit. We've spent hours on it. Discussed a few different plans, things like that. I would like to make a motion, which has a few different subparts, but I am trying to be cognizant of different concerns that people have expressed through our different meetings. And so I'll just go through and read the motion, and we can discuss it. So I move to place the following three projects and amounts on the proposed bond list. $9 million for the RCC Advanced Technology Center, $11 million for the Royal Oaks Elementary Replacement School, $23 million for Kannapolis City Schools Middle School. My proposal, the motion is that the bond list will be drafted very specifically such that if alternative financing is provided for any of these three projects, financing pursuant to the bond vote will no longer be available. RCC will receive an additional $2 million cash for the Advanced Technology Center at the time of financing, bringing their total to $11 million. As part of this motion, I move that we agree to provide short-term financing of up to $23 million to Kannapolis City Schools in fiscal year 2015 for a term not to exceed 5 years for its middle school, provided that Kannapolis City Schools withdraw its resolution in support of bond referendum by May the 31st. If Kannapolis City Schools does make such withdrawal, no other project will be added to the bond project list, and the amount of the bond will be reduced by $23 million. It is important to tell our citizens how we are going to fund this financing, but I do not want to be disruptive to the regular bond process, the regular budget process, I apologize. County Manager Downs had said that we were in the middle of that, and we are continuing to pursue those things. So I would like the following parameters included within this motion. As part of the motion, we agree that our fiscal year 2015 budget 5-year plan will have the following terms: a revenue-neutral tax rate for any and all revaluation years, an additional $2 million cash for Mount Pleasant Middle School, and $1.5 million cash for the RCCC Cosmetology Program relocation. I think it would be beneficial to allow staff the opportunity to revise or amend any of its plans to meet the above stated requirements. We would like such revised plans. I would like to see those plans, revised or amended 5-year plans by our April board meeting. And if we cannot, and if such a plan cannot be produced by the meeting, meeting these requirements, then I think we should move forward with Plan C. That is my motion.
Now you're saying borrow $23 million short term. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
And is that $2 million for RCC on the short term bonds too?
The $2 million for RCCC will come out of cash, and then the $11 million and the $9 million, I'd like to come back and do with short-term financing.
The $11 million and the $9 million is going to stay on the bond. We'll stay on the bond referendum regardless of this short-term financing.
That's right.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, Commissioner Birch.
In other words, what you're doing is asking staff, giving them the opportunity to work on this in the budget and come back to us with their recommendations at our next monthly meeting, right?
They have asked us for guidance in terms of what we are looking for, and I would like to give them some guidance as they develop the budget process. It will take them some time, so I would like to give them some guidance and allow them the flexibility to come up with a plan that may be different than mine.
Then if they can't find all these funds, or they can't find the funds to pay back this short-term debt, which would have to come out of some kind of a budget cut, correct? Or, I mean, I don't know where they'll come from.
Plan C, as I mentioned at our meeting last week, takes a historic look back and compares the budget from 2013 to 2014. The total expenditures for the county in 2013 were $211 million. Total expenditures for the county this year were $226 million. That's a $15 million increase. I'm saying let's roll back $7 million of that $15 million increase and fund it with respect to Plan C. And we don't have to do Plan C. I want to give staff the opportunity to look through and see if they can come up with another way. But that's what Plan C is, and I think that's a reasonable request to roll back 40% of an increase.
In other words, we're putting as little as possible on the bond referendum, correct?
Well, I think...
In other words, if we can do the short-term financing, we will save quite a bit of interest versus these bonds going out on a 20-year payback.
If we do the short-term financing on the single project, Kannapolis City Schools, we will save $11.5 million in interest charges alone. If we can come back and work with Cabarrus County Schools and RCCC and fund those two projects on short-term financing, we can save an additional $10 million. So if we could do short-term financing on these three projects, we could save $21.5 million in interest charges alone on these projects.
Well, I'm all in for saving the taxpayers money, and I would think I would be willing to allow staff to look at this and come back to us with it. The only other thing I want to know first is what does the other commissioners want to put on that bond? And I don't want to put them on that bond referendum. We have to.
It's my understanding that whatever amount that we would decide on tonight to send forward to the local government commission, I think that's the correct term, is simply an amount for them to approve. That does not in any way obligate us to decide that that's the final amount that we want to put on a bond referendum. If we sent the, and of course, you know, we all have a chart in front of us and it's got some yeses and nos on there that might be helpful to hear some explanation of that. But if we sent that full amount to them and they said, yes, you're okay, to go ahead with that amount, then we have the opportunity to come back and look at, pick and choose the projects that we think should be included on that, and reduce that if we think that is the wise thing to do. Also, at the same time, if we put this amount on a bond referendum and send it out to the voters, made the case to them, let them understand what the bonds were for, and let them decide if they think that they are valuable or not, and they approve them, then we still are under no obligation to issue those bonds. If we come back and find a more economical way of financing those construction projects, whether it would be from cash that we can pull out of the budget or some other form of financing, we still have the flexibility to do that. So I am in favor of the plan that gives us the greatest flexibility and the greatest opportunity to look at all of our options. I think on the list that we have here, the projects that are designated yes total about 99, just short of $99 million. Included in that is the several Cabarrus County school projects, the Coultram Webb Elementary School renovation, Central Cabarrus High School is included in that amount, in addition to the community college. If we put a bond referendum out for the voters to decide on, and we limit it to a very small portion of the county, I think we have very little success of passing it. I think that we need to look at geographically, the folks out at Central Cabarrus have been and talked to us before, have emailed us about the conditions of that school, and some funds have been spent there in trying to make some improvements, but they've still got a ways to go. So if we can offer a package that delivers something to the folks in the Central Cabarrus area, the Coultram Webb in the city of Concord, the middle school in the city of Kannapolis, and the other thing that was not addressed in Jason's motion was the balance of the funds needed for the Mount Pleasant middle school replacement. Yes, sir, go ahead.
It was addressed. It was one of the requirements of the 5-year plan that I talked about at the end, that we would have to allocate an additional $2 million for Mount Pleasant Middle School. And that would be the same deal that we've always talked about, which is if the school board comes back to us and shows us that they need more than $2 million, I am perfectly willing to look at that. They have not given us a very good estimate of how they come up with their numbers, and so I feel comfortable guaranteeing an additional $2 million to bring that total up to $15.5 million. And if they come back to us and show us that they need something more than that, then I'm happy to take a look at that also.
Well, that leaves an additional $6 million based on their estimates that we still have to figure out where to come from. I've heard, have talked to quite a few people about the cash for schools plan. I agree with them that I think that is a wonderful way to go. If we can pay cash for our needs without incurring any additional debt, I'm very much in favor of that. The problem is, I still cannot answer them as to where the funds are going to come from to pay cash for these schools. Some of the discussions that we've had over the months, back in September, comments were made about the parade of horribles that the former commissioners had brought out, that they had deceived the taxpayers and lied to them, that if they did not adopt a revenue neutral tax rate, which is what they did, that we would have all these cuts, and that wasn't true. And we came back in October and saw a plan that cut $25 million out of the budget and reduced the tax rate by 7 cents. Then we came back, then in December, we saw another plan that said the budget will be reduced by 13.3 million and would reduce the tax rate by 3.5 cents. The email that I received yesterday showed another scenario that called for a 1.5 cent cut in the tax rate. So if we go back to September and take a look at the things that were talked about then, it would seem that if those things were not true, that it would be easy to go back and cut that 7 cents off the tax rate. So far, we haven't been able to do that. The question that I ask repeatedly is, if we cut these amounts out of the budget, how is it going to affect the services that we deliver to the citizens. The list that you handed me last week, Jason, I think was 4 million some, and I think that the information of the analysis of that list that we're looking at now, and here are the totals. Yeah, that was $4,154,000. Of that amount, $1,033,000 has already been cut. 1.5 million are things on the list that cannot be cut for various reasons. And just one example is the foster care amounts. There are several amounts in there that are included, but some other things that for various reasons cannot be cut out of the budget. So the bottom line, that list that started out at 4.1 million is now 1.5 million. And if the most recent plan says we have to cut 7 million. So I need to know where that 7 million is coming from. It kind of reminds me of phone call that I received from the insurance company, and it said, would you like to save hundreds of dollars on your car insurance next year? My response was, well, I've got an insurance agent that I've used for many years and I trust them, and I don't think I'd want to make a change right now. And they said, well, are you telling me that you do not want to save several $100s on your insurance? And I said, well, no, I would love to save several $100s on my insurance. And we continued to talk, and they said, so I said, well, I really like my current plan, but I'm going to go ahead with it because, a couple $100 is a couple $100, and we can all use an additional couple $100. So in my excitement about saving this money, I didn't dig down into the details as carefully as I should have, but I went ahead and switched companies. A few weeks later, I'm driving down the road and my car stops on me. And so I have to call a tow truck to come pick me up, and they charge me $100 to tow my car in. And I get the bill, pay it. Then I say, well, I have towing coverage on my insurance. And I realized, well, I can't call my agent anymore. I've got to call the service center, the number. They told me they had a 24-hour hotline, so I call them up and they say, well, we're sorry. I said, I need to get this bill reimbursed from my towing coverage. And they said, well, I'm sorry, but this policy doesn't have that on there. And I said, well, I thought it had everything I had before. And no, you didn't get that. So there's $100 of my savings gone. I have another instant later on, I'm making all this up, and y'all know that. I'm using it as an example. Somebody breaks out my car window while it's parked in front of the house, and I call them back up, and they say, well, that would be covered by your comprehensive, and you don't have that on this policy. And so that's another couple $100. Well, all of a sudden, my insurance policy that I was going to save several $100s on, now I've spent more than what I would spend on my old policy with somebody that I trusted. So my point is that the Cash for Schools plan sounds great. It appeals to me. I think it appeals to a lot of folks. The important part is working out the details and figuring out how we do that. How does it affect our citizens? If we can cut these anywhere from $7 million to $25 million out of our budget and still provide our citizens, our taxpayers, the services that they appreciate, then I'm on board. But I don't think we've reached the point where we know exactly what that's going to mean to us. And so for that reason, I think that we should have this word on the bond as a tool that we can use if we need to. If we don't need to, we don't have to. But it allows us to engage in a clear and honest conversation with the taxpayers, and to give them the facts. And, you know, I think the best government that we can have is a government where people are involved. They have an opportunity to express their opinions and vote and tell us what they think. So for that reason, and I would probably recommend the 98.944 amount to get an opinion from the local government commission. But I would like a little bit of explanation about these projects that are down the right side of our page that have no by them. Can somebody do that?
I can talk a little bit here. We do have Joe Nagel, our underwriter here, Steve Cordell, our attorney, our bond attorney, and Doug Carter, our financial advisor as well, that maybe can come up and speak. We had a general conversation last week on every single project that came through, and every single project is a very good project. It's a matter of, can some of these be handled by cash? Would they be more appropriately to be handled by cash? Can they be broken down into smaller projects, and therefore would not be suggested or recommended or to be considered for the bond itself? And again, all of them are good projects and need to be done, but as far as the bond was concerned, the group decided that for this, that they would lean towards the board considering the projects that are noted in that column, and that is the Kannapolis Middle School, the Jackson Park Gym addition, Royal Oaks Replacement Elementary School, Mount Pleasant Middle School, whether it's the entire amount or the portion that the cash has already been, and it's noted on the list there that the cash has already been moved over for a big portion of that school. The Culture and Webb School, elementary school renovation, and then the Central Cabarrus High School auditorium, classroom, and cafeteria building. And that would be for the public school bond, and then the community college bond would be building 4,000, and the Southwest Campus expansion and property expansion as well. Again, if you want some particulars as to why financially it makes sense to do that, Mr. Carter is here to speak to that, and again, we have Mr. Nagel as well. And those three gentlemen do these bonds for they participate and assist communities throughout the state in this process and make these recommendations quite often. In fact, I think Mr. Carter and Mr. Nagler, I think all three of you are working with other communities at this time right now. So they are here if you would want them to come up. But that's, again, that is the list. It comes up to $98,944,000. That is a list for you to consider. It's in no means is that the list that anybody is recommending that you should put the entire list on there, but those projects are very, very much worthy of consideration.
I guess my other question would be, and I know that staff can't be definitive, but have you arrived at a figure that you think that we could handle without causing a tax increase?
We have not come up. In fact, working on a budget. We are working. In fact, today we are just starting to meet with our department heads for the first time today. So we're not sure what the department heads are presenting to us. We are now, and we have been requesting direction from the board as to what would be that recommended or suggested tax rate, so that we could work in that direction. Are there smaller numbers there? I don't have that number right now. Mm-hmm. It would take us a while to sit down and talk and rearrange these in a particular way to see which one would work out without a tax increase or without the need for additional money or without the need for cuts to existing services or programs.
But if we pass this bond referendum, we would have the flexibility to determine the 1, 2, or 3 projects that we want to start immediately and sell the bonds for only those projects and then wait until the following year or we would not have to do that all at one time if we didn't want to. Is that correct?
That's correct. And Mr. Cordell, if I say something or if I misspeak, please, that's correct. If the referendum is passed, you have 7 years to sell those bonds if you so choose. However, you don't have to sell any of them. If you want to pay cash or find another option to fund any of the projects or all of the projects, then you can do so.
Or if we found a form of financing that was less expensive than the bond, whether it be short-term or long-term, we would still have the flexibility to utilize that as well. Is that right?
That is correct.
So this really doesn't bind us to anything, except giving the voters an opportunity to speak.
Let me ask you to clarify your question. When it says it doesn't bind you to anything, meaning if we go through the referendum and our citizens approve those projects as part of that referendum, then you would need to that gives you the ability to move forward.
Exactly.
And take
we would
in that
use
amount.
the funds for those projects, and we would be bound to that, which
correct.
Obviously.
However, if some projects come to the point, and again, Mr. Cordell, feel free to come up and help me out. If we get to the point, and if the number on the bond referendum is exhausted for some reason that all of the projects are not completed, you're not bound to have to do the rest of the projects, but you have to do those up to that point.
Okay.
Good evening. It's good to be with you again. I want to circle back and hit a couple things I heard. One, Commissioner Morris, just clarification. When you do the bond referendum, you are correct. It gives you the authority to issue general obligation bonds to pay for school projects or community college projects. You have a 7-year period. The board would have to meet again to take specific action to actually issue the bonds and which projects at which time would be funded. One thing I heard, you could do the bonds as a short-term financing as well. You don't have to do them as 20 years. That's pretty common for these types of projects because they have such long lives. But you could certainly do you could do a shorter maturity of the bonds and use your general obligation bonds, which are going to have your highest credit rating and lowest interest cost. Commissioner Osterreich, I'm not familiar with the short-term financing plan.
Deputy County Manager Pam Dubois got all that information for me last week, and it came from our finance guys, so that is from them. It's not from me.
Oh, okay.
That was going to be something that I said to Commissioner Morris. I appreciate being compared to a car salesman or an auto salesman, but that didn't come from me. That came from Pam Dubois. So she knows her numbers. Our finance people know their numbers, and those numbers came from them, not from me.
No, the only thing I was going to add, getting back to the stepping back a little bit, as a county, you have limited ability to borrow money. GO bonds, you have to go through basically a referendum process for new money projects. There's other types of financing. It's installment contract financing that does not require a referendum. But I just wanted to make sure because there are limited types, there's limited authority for the county to borrow money. There's a process of approval that you have to go through.
She did look through those and
Short-term, yes, so short-term GO bonds, yes, shorter term. Yeah, you don't have to do 20-year maturity. That's just more of a typical. Right, okay.
Well,
But you still have to have the referendum first to have the authority to do the GO bonds, whatever the maturity is. You still have to go through the referendum.
Well, I don't think that's what we had talked about. So I'm not sure exactly which financial product that Pam gave to me.
Right.
I said to her what my goal was in terms of the financing, and that's what she gave to me. But I left my motion flexible in terms of how we would do that short-term financing, but we would do it for no more than a term of 5 years so that we could get those paid back and get the interest benefits that Ms. Dubois had informed me about.
Right, okay. Just wanted to clarify that point. Anything else I can add?
I don't have a question for you. No.
Now, I'm just going to say that I'm not willing to sit here and put $100 million worth of debt on the backs of the taxpayers of this county. If we put a $100 million bond out there and it passes, I can almost promise you that every dime of it will be spent. I want to do as small a bond as we can do. I want to save as much money as we can save. I want to give staff an opportunity to work on this plan. If it'll work, come back and tell us. If it won't, come back and tell us. It's all I want to know. Now, I'm going to second Mr. Osterwright's motion because I want staff to do it. I don't want us to do it. And then if it won't work and they come back to us and if they want to make the cuts, then that's up to this board. And we can be blamed for it and not our staff. It's what I'm working toward.
And I did just have a response to a couple of your points, Commissioner Morse. There have been different compromises along the way to address some of your concerns, to address some of our school board's concerns, to address some other commissioners and staff's concerns. So I don't deny that we've compromised. I mean, when we got started, I was going to do only cuts to fund this. And then I looked at our long-term debt and realized how much long-term debt was expiring and realized that if we could take advantage of the fact that it was expiring and not add on to it, then we could use the payments that we had been paying to that long-term debt and come back and fund some of this so that we didn't have to make any additional cuts. But that's been the plan since December. The $7 million has been the number since December. You talked about it the other night. As I mentioned to Mr. Cordell, Pam Dubois gave me the numbers on that 1.4 million versus 33.9 million, I think. But the 21.5 million those are real numbers. And the thing that I would say is, Commissioner Burge, I think, made a good point. Having a $100 million credit card is not a good thing for the county. That's a $10 million credit card, and we don't control where that goes. So I don't think that we should go out and basically give a $100 million credit card. But I want to know how you want to pay for that $100 million, because it seems to me that you want me to get down for you to every penny of how I'm going to pay for this. And the only way that you can pay for $100 million is an enormous tax increase. In fact, every one of the other three plans, it's right here. Revaluation year, 2017, $6.7 additional million coming in. And that's $6.7 million that our taxpayers are going to have to pay in addition to what they're paying for now in order to fund your plan. And I find it a little bit ironic that you want me to get down to the penny of where we are going to make expenditure reductions for the county, and yet you are so willing to put a tax increase on the people of Cabarrus County. And when you put a tax increase on the people of Cabarrus County, you force them to cut their budget. And it doesn't seem like you have very much concern for the fact that they have to go and cut their budget when you are totally unwilling to even look at any in ours. And those are all my comments.
Let me jump in. I will say that I absolutely do not support the $100 million bond. I think looking over it and the extensive discussions that we have had for months now, I'll tell you, I really don't think that the county can afford the $100 million bond. I don't think that it should be put on the ballot for $100 million. The current motion that's on the table, I think, guarantees the three most important projects for each school system as it was presented to us. I think that it gives us the flexibility to have the items on the bond, but if we do come up with alternative financing via the short-term financing plan that can be paid back in a reduced amount of time with a lot less interest, I think it gives us the flexibility to do that. And, you know, if we go out and decide that we're going to put the $100 million on the bond, and we have 7 years before we can, or 7 years to issue that debt, well, probably all 5 of us are not going to be here in 7 years, potentially. So, you know, we're committing a future board to debt that I think is completely inappropriate. I don't think that the county can afford a $100 million debt. I think that if the $100 million bond is put
on the ballot in November, I think that it is ultimately going to be a tax increase, and we can see it. As Jason had mentioned in the plans, we can see it. In 2017, there will be a tax increase for the citizens of Cabarrus County. And I think it's our job and our responsibility right now to look through these proposed projects in which we have and narrow down the field of what's important. Of course, they're all important, but what can we actually afford? And I think that with the current motion on the table, as I said, I think that that's a good starting point for us, and I think that that's the direction that we should move.
I think it's interesting that, as far as I know, the numbers that are being thrown out, no one on this board has built schools, and yet the decision's been made that Royal Oaks can be built for $11 million, not 17, as requested. Same with Rowan Cabarrus Community College, that their building 4,000 can be built for 9 plus 2 more in cash, or 11 when they're requesting 12.3. Kannapolis Middle School, 23, and they requested 23.5. So giving Kannapolis Middle School almost all of the money that they're requesting, and yet severely limiting on the other request. I also don't understand how you can tie the hands of future boards by stating that in the next 5 years, all these things that have to happen or that are limited at this point in time, that was part of your motion. And the departments haven't even gotten to staff yet. The sheriff hasn't come forward. We haven't gotten the court's request. We have no idea what the school systems want, and yet you're already proposing that your budget be approved, and none of that's gone through yet. And I just think that the way that your motion is phrased is a way of trying to get the budget included in this same motion. I think that Central Cabarrus needs to be considered in a bond. We've talked a lot with those people, and we have made assurances to them that something would happen to that school, and yet there's nothing being considered for Central Cabarrus. And I think that should be added to the list. I'm also concerned with the amount of cash that apparently is available to finish Mount Pleasant Middle School, and yet, as Commissioner Burridge has pointed out numerous times, there are lots of roofs and maintenance projects that need to be done. And if all the cash is going to finish these projects, then maintenance will still not be addressed anytime in the near future. So I think that all the add-ons that you did in your motion make that motion objectionable, because you're trying to hamper staff and this board in the budget process. And we haven't had a public hearing. Staff hasn't gathered the information, and yet that's part of your plan, is to move forward with that. So I think that part of your motion makes that an inappropriate part of the motion.
What I was asking for was to give staff a chance to look at it and come back to us. Now, I don't want to put this county in any more debt than we have to. The previous boards left us a $500 million debt. And I don't think the county, I don't think the taxpayers want a big increase in their taxes. We got a lot of people out there can't hardly pay their taxes now. And all I'm asking for is to give staff a chance to look at this and come back and tell us, will it work or won't it work? Then if it don't, then this board's going to have to do something about it. But I don't have a problem with limiting the amount of money that we're willing to go out here and borrow, because from what I heard, these only three schools was the only thing they really felt like there was a rush to do, and to go out here and do gym additions, to do tracks, parking lots, and things like that, system-wide parking lot repair. We shouldn't borrow money. I don't think we're borrowing money to do that kind of stuff.
And I understand what you've said. I don't think that's what the motion was, though.
The motion was to put the 40s.
The motion was to do Rowan Cabarrus, Royal Oaks Elementary School, Kannapolis City Schools, and a few cash projects.
Right.
But then there were additional comments made on the budget that impacts the budget process that were added in the motion, and those are the ones that I would take exception with.
You talking about the,
No, I'm talking about the general comments about moving forward with the budget, Plan C on the budget, and tying the hands when we have not even gotten through the entire budget process. We have not had a public hearing. We have not received any information from the departments or from any of the entities that we fund. And I would have trouble going forward with those limitations, which is what was part of his motion.
what I'm saying is to look at Plan C, and if it won't work, come back and tell us it won't work, is all I'm asking for.
Are you amending his motion? You've seconded his motion, which had those limitations.
Well,
And that's, I was trying to write everything
I'm
down. I don't know what,
The only limitations in this motion are three. A revenue neutral tax rate for any and all revaluation years. That's not a next year budget issue. That is just putting it in the 5-year plan so that it's that way.
but you can't guarantee that.
I'm not guaranteeing it for 2017.
I'm just saying
I'm
that's-
asking for a plan, a 5-year plan that shows us a means of accomplishing these things without raising the taxes. That plan has not been put forward. We have 4 plans in front of us. One of them has no tax increase in 2017. The other 3 have a tax increase in 2017. I would like a plan that does not have a tax increase that's for 2017. The other one was an additional $2 million cash for Mount Pleasant Middle School and $1.5 million cash for RCC cosmetology program. Those are the only 3 things on there, and I'm not binding our budget process. Those are things that we need to do, and I'm not going to vote for a bond that requires us to raise taxes, and so that was why I put that revenue neutral tax rate for all revaluation years in there.
Okay, the motion tonight is not to vote for the bond. It is to get feedback from the local government commission. So if you want to make a motion that just addresses the bond, the items on the bond, I think that is appropriate to, and then give staff guidance outside of the motion that those are things you want them to bring back to you. We haven't gotten a budget presented to us from the staff yet. I mean, they're still working on it. So I don't have a problem if you want to put that outside of the motion, but to be a part of the motion doesn't work.
I'm going to leave them as part of the motion, and the reason why I'm going to leave them as part of the motion is because government has a habit of going out and telling people, we can borrow this much money, or asking for approval to borrow this much money, without telling the people how we are going to pay that back. And I will not vote to even approve these projects to go on the bond if it requires us to have a tax increase. And so what I'm saying here is I'm willing to approve these projects to go on the bond under this condition, that it have a revenue neutral tax rate for all revaluation years. So I'm going to leave that as part of the motion because I think the taxpayers of Cabarrus County have had a bad part of the deal for a few years. Their tax rate is up 25% over the last 10 years, and I just don't want to raise their taxes anymore. I think that it's time that we come up with some different resources for them so that we don't constantly put our decisions on their backs.
And I respectfully comment again that it should not be part of the same motion. So are there any other comments that anyone would like to make at this time?
What would be we're not sitting here saying this is part of the budget. Or I'm not. I'm saying.
I ask that it be made separate.
Well, I don't have no problem separating it if I think it'll come out to the same thing from staff when they get through going through it and seeing if it'll work. So all I'm asking is to come back and tell me yes or no. And it's only fair to sit here and save the taxpayers of this county as much money as we can. And that's all I'm thinking about, is the people out there. And I know my great-grandchildren's going to have to pay this debt off.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to call the question. We have a motion and a second.
Madam
I was
Chairman,
going to ask
I
one more
would
time if
ask
there were
that
any other
you,
comments, just to make sure everybody had a chance, and then I was planning to vote.
I was just going to request that you please read the motion in full before we vote on it.
I don't think I can, but I'm sure Commissioner Osterreich has it written out. Or I presume you do.
I do. Yes, ma'am.
And I would appreciate if we can all get a copy of, at some point, so that we know, the clerk knows what the motion is and
Sure,
everybody else does.
I'll give her
So
this
we didn't
copy,
get
Madam
that.
Chairman. The motion is, I move to place the following 3 projects and amounts on the proposed bond list. $9 million for the RCCC Advanced Technology Center, $11 million for Royal Oaks Elementary School replacement, $23 million for KCS Middle School. The bond list will be drafted very specifically, such that if alternative financing is provided for any of these 3 projects, financing pursuant to the bond will no longer be available. RCCC will receive an additional $2 million cash for the Advanced Technology Center at time of financing. As part of this motion, we are agreeing to provide short-term financing of up to $23 million to Kannapolis City Schools in fiscal year 2015 for a term not to exceed 5 years for its middle school, provided that Kannapolis City Schools withdraw its resolution in support of bond referendum by May 31st. If KCS does make such withdrawal, no other project will be added to the bond project list, and the total amount of the bond will be reduced by $23 million. It is important to tell our citizens how we're going to pay for this financing, but I do not want to be disruptive to the regular budget process. As part of the motion, we agree that our fiscal year 2015 budget 5-year plan will have the following: a revenue-neutral tax rate for any and all revaluation years, an additional $2 million cash for Mount Pleasant Middle School, and $1.5 million cash for the RCCC Cosmetology Program relocation. We would like staff to come up with a revised or amended 5-year plan that meets those requirements of the 5-year plan for our April meeting, and if such plan cannot be reduced, we will look at Plan C.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carries 3-2. At this time, we have appointments to the board. Let me get to that page. 1 second. Do we have any appointments? I'm sorry, do we have any appointments? No, sorry, we don't have any appointments. Sorry, I missed that. You have a number of reports. At this time, are there any general comments by board members? Hearing none, we do not need a closed session.
Madam Chairman, may I make one? I was at the Senior Wellness Day over at the arena, and I ran into a lady, and she was promoting Autism Awareness Day on March the 26th. It's Wear Purple Day, so I just wanted to make Cabarrus County aware that it's Epilepsy Awareness Day on March the 26th.
Okay, we do not need a closed session, correct? Okay, may I have a motion to recess this meeting to March the 21st, which is Friday at 9 o'clock in the multi-purpose room, to meet with our legislative delegates.
So moved.
Have a motion, is there a second? Second. Motion is second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Board of Commissioners are now in recess. Good night, everybody.